Hello, my name is David Higginbottom and I'm a cross-phase assistant head teacher at the Gosport Fair Multi-Academy Trust, and I'm also the director of the GFM Institute of Education. I'm delighted to be a part of this virtual event and to share with you parts of our journey to becoming an evidence-informed organisation. Firstly, I wanted to talk a little bit about who we are. The Gosport Fair Multi-Academy Trust was the first localised multi-academy trust established in the county of Hampshire, and our schools and sites are located in and around the towns of Gosport and Fareham on the south coast of England. The founding schools of the GFM are Bay House Academy, which also includes the GFM sixth form provision, Goma Junior School, and the Lord Wilson Academy, which is a specialist provision for secondary age boys with social, emotional and mental health needs. Broome Park Community School joined the GFM in May 2017, and Rowner Junior School followed in September 2018. We also have a number of other alternative provision sites across the locality, and we're very proud and pleased to have built the Gosport STEM Centre, which is the only STEM centre in the country to be based within a school. During my presentation, I'm going to address some of these questions directly to share with you our journey to becoming an evidence-informed organisation, and it's a road and a journey that we're still very much on. So I'm going to start with the why. Why did we as an organisation and a cross-MAT senior leadership team decide to embrace a research-based approach? And then I'm going to move on to the what and the how. What have we done to build and establish a culture of research? And how have we overcome the barriers that we faced when implementing such an approach? I will also share with you what we have learned from embracing a research-based approach before finishing with some of our plans for the future as we continue on our journey. So why did we decide to embrace a research-based approach? The GFM is very much a learning organisation, and we believe that everybody within our community is a learner. Therefore, we felt it important as a senior leadership team, we were modelling and encouraging all of our staff to model the learning process for our students, for our parents and carers, and for wider members of our local communities. And our main key reason or our trigger for embracing a research-based approach is that we know that the research can provide us with the best bets about what could work and what might be effective to enhance the learning outcomes for all of our students. Thus, we started on our journey to becoming an evidence-informed organisation, both in regards to pedagogy and our teaching and learning ethos across the trust. Now, in the time frame that I have for this presentation, I cannot share with you everything that we have done, but what I do want to do is share with you 3 different approaches that we have taken to establish and build a culture of research. Firstly, I want to talk about our in-house research journal and link to this how we've set up a half-termly journal club for colleagues to engage in across our trust. Secondly, I want to share with you a little bit of information about our GFM Talks, which are freely available to listen to via our GFM Talks YouTube channel. And finally, how we have ensured that all of our pedagogy CPD inputs across the trust are evidence-based. We decided to start publishing an in-house educational research journal for several key reasons. We wanted to celebrate the value of reflective practice. At the same time, we also wanted to give profile to school-led knowledge production. We felt this was important because we wanted to encourage deeper thinking analysis and critical discourse between colleagues within the schools in our trust. We feel that's really important to have that within the profession, and to also recognise and to celebrate the achievements of our colleagues who had taken time to really unpack and understand better a particular area of interest. And here on the screen, you can see a selection of some of the articles which have appeared in previous editions of our journal. There's a huge variety of interests and topic areas linked to pedagogy and practice, which colleagues have been really keen to understand better and to look deeper into and to conduct some classroom-based research. We've supported colleagues by providing writing frames for them to use when writing up their action research. And off the back of this, we've also set up a half-termly journal club, which provides colleagues with the opportunity to meet to discuss and critically evaluate recent articles in the academic research literature, to think about how aspects of the research can start to be embedded within our practice across the GFM. At the GFM, we recognise the importance of sharing and we value learning from one another. So what we wanted to do was we wanted to create a safe forum in which colleagues could share, learn and spark debate. Thus, we came up with the idea of GFM Talks, the purpose of which is to welcome colleagues from across the schools within the GFM, but also from other schools within our local area, so that colleagues can share their practice, their experiences and their thoughts, all within an educational context. Our GFM Talks is currently being hosted online due to the pandemic, and it takes place on the last term time Thursday of each month. And what it's done is it's provided a further platform for colleagues to share their research. A number of colleagues who are currently conducting classroom-based research as part of their master's studies, and as a trust we're really keen to offer assistance to support colleagues who want to complete their master's studies. They've used GFM Talks as an opportunity to disseminate and share their findings. Coming up on the screen, you can see some examples of previous GFM Talks titles and the accompanying blurbs that go with those. The first two there being from two PE colleagues from across the secondary phase of the GFM, and another example here, again, from a colleague from across the secondary phase, where he was talking about the importance of using evidence-based approaches in the classroom. We place a really strong emphasis on ensuring that our teaching and learning practices are evidence-informed. And over recent years, we've drawn upon the work of the learning scientists, with a particular focus on understanding how best we learn, particularly the 6 strategies for effective learning that the learning scientists have recommended. We've also focused a lot on Baruch Rosenshine's principles of instruction, and we've also drawn upon Tom Sherrington's publication of The Learning Rainforest to inform the focus of our pedagogy CPD inputs and our professional learning offer to colleagues across the trust. We've been very lucky and fortunate enough to work directly with Tom Sherrington in previous years, and we're really proud that Broome Park School is one of his Learning Rainforest fieldbook schools. However, our teaching and learning intent is simple. Be the best that you can be to become the best version of yourself. We do not tell teachers how to teach at the GFM, but through establishing attitudes and habits for excellence and by creating an ethos where professional learning, continued professional development and educational research is valued, remains absolutely key to underpinning our school improvement ethos. We acknowledge completely that the educational research does not provide us with the silver bullet of how to teach, but that it does allow us to make those informed decisions in regards to what might work within our classrooms. Over the past year, as we've been in lockdown and as we've gone through periods of school closure, we've also drawn upon the growing evidence base from the Education Endowment Foundation and the growing research literature about how best to support students to learn remotely and also when teaching virtually online. Alongside this, we've also drawn upon the research from the Chartered College of teaching, as we supported colleagues through the rapid upskilling that we've been forced into so that we can teach online. This next slide is an example of a theory slide from one of our most recent pedagogy CPD inputs. By beginning each input with the why and through investigating the evidence base that sits behind a particular approach to teaching and learning, we found that we've secured greater buy-in from staff when adapting and making changes to teaching and learning pedagogy. And when we've conducted lesson evaluations and lesson drop-ins across the trust, we've actually seen adoption of these teaching and learning techniques. You can see that this one here is about the importance of retrieval practice in the classroom. Why should we as teachers be embedding retrieval practice into our teaching and learning pedagogy? So moving on to how we've overcome the barriers to implementing a research-based approach, our two greatest barriers that we've had to overcome have been that of time and access. Finding the time for colleagues to actually sit down away from the busyness of everyday school life and engage with the research was a real challenge for us. Where does a busy teacher find that time to sift through the research literature, besides choosing to do so in their own time, be that of an evening, a weekend, a school holiday? And our top tip here is to produce clear and easily accessible research summaries for colleagues to access electronically if possible. Moving briefly onto this next slide here, this slide shows a page from our MATS professional learning portal, where we have collated key research-based strategies for teaching and learning. Thus, we've done the legwork for colleagues in actually finding the educational research and collating these summaries together in one place for easy access. The other barrier that the other way that we've overcome the barrier of time was purposefully prioritising professional learning time through careful planning of our school calendars, including building in cross-mat professional learning time. Through careful planning of our directed time budget across the GFM, we've built in a dedicated directed time for colleagues to engage in and with educational research. Our other top tip here is through incorporating an element of choice into which activities colleagues engage in, particularly during inset day programmes. We've started to see a shift in colleagues engaging in professional reading in particular, and actually turning to the research as a source of information for new teaching methods. As a result of this, what we've done is put aside some money within our CPD budget to actually update the professional learning sections of our school libraries, which has enabled us to purchase some more of the recent educational book publications that have come out over recent years. And colleagues have fed back that they've really valued this, and actually having those books available from within the school library and not necessarily having to purchase those themselves. They're actually choosing to engage with that research literature when thinking about their teaching and learning practice. To overcome the barrier of access, we've established partnerships, many of which have been built on our existing initial teacher training partnerships with our local universities. One particular collaborative project which was a success was in partnership with the University of Portsmouth, where we launched teacher learning communities, or TLCs. Through working collaboratively with colleagues at the university, we were able to gain access to educational research journal articles and draw upon the expertise of our higher education, our higher institute colleagues in relation to appropriate research methodologies. Cost here of a subscription service to educational journal articles can be a barrier for many schools, and for us, taking a partnership approach meant we were able to overcome the barrier of cost. The photographs you can see here are of our Wonder Wall, which was put together following the first round of teacher learning communities, which showcased and celebrated colleagues learning from within their TLCs. And I think celebrating the learning of colleagues is absolutely critical to establishing a culture of learning amongst staff, but also it's gone a long way in helping us to embed our evidence-informed approach. So before I conclude, what have we learned from our journey so far? Firstly, I cannot emphasize enough how much context and knowledge of your context is absolutely key when creating a research-based culture. And this includes context knowledge of who you teach, so your students, where you teach, so your classrooms, your schools, your communities, etc., and also what you teach. So that might be the subject, the level, the curriculum, etc. What worked for one school and what's worked for one group of students might not work for another. And it's not as simple as lifting an evidence-informed pedagogy strategy from one setting and transplanting it straight into another. We've learned that this simply does not work. Giving colleagues dedicated time is also critical. Don't expect colleagues to engage in and with the research if you don't create the time and space for them to do so. Where you can, confirm admin and to department and team meetings, or better still, to email, as this will afford colleagues as much time together as possible to engage in dialogue about teaching and learning. Coupled with this, encourage colleagues to take risks and celebrate all learning that takes place. Colleagues, like our students, will thrive when the conditions and the culture for learning is right. Senior management and senior leadership teams need to prioritise staff professional learning just as much as student learning. So prioritising learning for all really is crucial. So in conclusion, we are firm in our belief that collaboration lies at the heart of effective school improvement, and we are committed to research as being the mechanism for driving change and sustainable school improvement across the GFM. We're at the stage now where colleagues are seeing their classroom and their learning environments as research spaces, and we are absolutely committed to ensuring that all colleagues are supported in their endeavours to generate knowledge production at the point of production. We recognise that this is valuable research as it's context-based. So as we start to look ahead to next academic year, we plan to continue to prioritise professional learning time in our school calendars and also our directed time budget, so that there is that dedicated time and space that it's provided for colleagues to engage in and with the educational research. We also have plans to build further upon our links with higher education institutions, to continue to grow our culture of action-based research, and to continue to give colleagues access to educational research journal articles. So that's the end of my presentation. Thank you very much for watching, and I look forward to the panel discussion on the 5th of May. Take care, everybody. Bye-bye.